If Box Office Theory's Sean Robbins is anywhere close to accurate, then this headline ought to be absolutely terrifying to the Walt Disney Company and to Lucasfilm. Box office tracking and forecasts will The Mandalorian and Grogu, $71 million three-day, help revive Star Wars on the big screen for Memorial Weekend. Quite frankly, the only thing a number like 71 million suggests about Star Wars is that indeed Disney has been utterly successful in destroying it.
Destroyed by the Empire.
Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see all of you out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday afternoon right here at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. All right, let's break this one down because this is news that is, quite frankly, even more dire than I thought would be the case. If you recall last summer, when Fantastic Four First Steps was in the theater, finished its run slightly north of $500 million, I said that I don't think that the Mandalorian and Grogu Star Wars movie is going to do, but maybe on the high end, about $100 million more than that. If Sean Robbins is accurate with this prediction, and there are not many folks out there that go out on a limb like he does 4, 5, 6 weeks before a movie comes out to make his prognostication on early tracking results based on initial ticket sales, pre-sales that have already gone on for Mandalorian and Grogu. Again, there's not many guys like him, so, he's got a pretty good track record. We'll have to see how accurate he comes in, but if he's anywhere close to this, if he's anywhere close to reality, this is a mess. After a 6.5-year absence, Star Wars returns to the big screen following the rise of Palpatine. The franchise has since encountered some of the highest highs and the lowest lows in terms of critical reception. And of course, critical reception means the critics, the professional critics, the Rotten Tomatoes people, not the actual real audiences that have largely abandoned the franchise, even on Disney Plus, in the last several years. Fan enthusiasm, certainly one of the lowest of the lows, and broader casual audience goodwill, I don't think there's been much of that. Much of the momentum built by the enormous cinematic success of early Disney-era films, especially The Force Awakens and Rogue One, and I'll give Sean that is accurate, was diminished by highly divisive creative choices as the IP was pivoted towards a streaming strategy during the pandemic.
Good guess, but actually no.
Now, Sean may have a point there, but of course the other very divisive choices that were made were completely mothballing headline characters like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, putting them in the back seat or just killing them off, turning them into old loser drunks. Not a good look. Kathleen Kennedy and the girls at the Lucasfilm Story Group, if you recall, decided to take a property that Disney spent $4 billion on to invigorate male audiences, because Disney did not have a grasp on male audiences like they did with girls with the Disney Princess lineup. That and Marvel, and then, of course, Kathleen Kennedy immediately turned it into a girls' brand, or tried to turn it into a girls' brand, which utterly collapsed everything. One of the bright spots early on was The Mandalorian itself, and that is correct. Sean is on point there, and early on it did. It launched Disney Plus, but then, of course, by the time we got to Season 3, they had let the whole thing fall apart with a terrible story in Season 3, terrible characters they brought in, more fetch quests, and, of course, that was after a disastrous Book of Boba Fett. The fan base for even the Disney Plus stuff on Star Wars just seemed to vanish. On the other side of that coin, he says, streaming to big screen transitions for other franchises, namely Marvel, have not played out to the same level of box office success as their predecessors. Some of this can be attributed to possibly having a different core audience, the at-home viewers, but equally so the shared oversaturation of content and middling to poor reception of other undercooked storylines, whether or not they were directly associated with the originating spin-off. Now, let me translate that. It simply means that audiences that watch stuff at home on TV are more often than not going to be disencouraged to actually get to the theater to go see it there. It's just not something that a lot of them do. Even when you have big things like Stranger Things that go to the theaters for the final episodes, it did decent numbers, but it wasn't blowing the doors off of anything for Netflix, not that they got to take any of that money home anyway. And then, of course, when you compound that with the issue that Season 3 of Mando wound up shedding nearly half or a little more than half of the Mandalorian audience that was there at the end of Season 2 with Luke Skywalker returning, it doesn't bode well for this. And again, all we're basically getting here is Season 4 of The Mandalorian on the big screen. But let me show you how much worse this gets. Let's go right back here to Box Office Theory's homepage today as I record this on Sunday. Box office tracking forecasts. Mandalorian and Grogu, $71 million 3-day opening weekend. Look at what's right next to it right above me to tell you how rotten this is. Box office weekend forecast, Super Mario Galaxy movie eyes $70 million second weekend or sophomore frame.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
Box Office Theory inadvertently just told the world how bad the expectations are for a movie that has Star Wars in the title. As of right now, if Sean Robbins is on the money, that means that Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu could actually turn in a lesser domestic opening weekend than Super Mario Brothers did on its second weekend. And Super Mario Brothers started on a Wednesday and Thursday. Its opening weekend wasn't even the first 3 days of the film. It was days 3, 4, and 5. How did we get here? Well, probably destroying fan bases didn't do a whole lot for the Walt Disney Company when it came to Star Wars, and they've been doing it the last 5 or 6 years now with Marvel. And we'll have a video on Doomsday coming out here soon. I don't expect, I think, what Disney expects and some people expect for that film either, but that's another video. The problem is when you invest $4 billion for one purpose that you sell to your shareholders and then instantly pivot to the exact opposite direction, making Star Wars for girls, and then you throw another $2 billion down building out a couple of Galaxy's Edge theme parks in California and Orlando. And then how about hundreds and hundreds of millions more for a Star Wars-themed hotel that went bankrupt within a year? I don't know if another Disney hotel has ever gone bankrupt in its history. And then there's the billions more that they've spent on these Disney Plus shows. Remember that Andor, 2 seasons of Andor, even after film tax credits from the UK, still cost over $600 million US, an insane amount of money for 2 seasons of a TV show that frankly turned in some of the lowest performance in terms of viewership on Disney Plus for anything Star Wars.
But wait, there's more.
As of the close of business on Sunday, the estimates are as follows for Super Mario Galaxy. Right now, after 12 days, remember to open on a Wednesday, after 12 days, it's going to be at about $630 million worldwide. And if you look at Sean Robbins' estimates for the opening weekend of Star Wars, we're starting to get a picture of how badly this movie is going to perform. Look at the first Wednesday and Thursday for Super Mario Galaxy. $59 million in the till after that Thursday, the second day it was on the screen. Well, according to Box Office Theory, as of right now, the tracking estimates for Mandalorian and Grogu, that's only about $10 to $12 million behind the first Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Look at the Friday, Saturday, Sunday here. We were at $190 million by the end of that weekend. Even if you pull out the $59 million that it got on the Wednesday and Thursday and pretend that that never existed, you're talking about roughly $130 million for Super Mario on its opening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which looks like, as of right now, that's going to be about $50 million plus more than Star Wars, Mandalorian, and Grogu. And then a prediction that I made just in the last couple of weeks, asking audiences even, what did they think was going to turn in the biggest box office this year, or the bigger of the two? Let's look at some space adventure sagas, right? Project Hail Mary, and then Star Wars, Mandalorian, and Grogu. Project Hail Mary, as of the end of this weekend, which, by the way, just got itself back into IMAX theaters and had a hell of a hold, almost say a rebound into this new weekend, $510 million. The expectation is right now that this movie will easily cruise to over $600 million by the time it's done.
I like.
If we just take Sean's estimate of $71 million, hell, even split the difference in its range, let's go to $75 million on its opening weekend. And again, we're still about 5 weeks out. These numbers can certainly change, but I'd be surprised if they change radically in one direction or another. Star Wars is a very well-known franchise. People know what they're walking into. Unlike Project Hail Mary, for example, this was something that had to build a word of mouth because most people didn't know exactly what it was. Star Wars is a given. It's the most well-known Hollywood IP in the history of history, and this should be an easy layup, meaning pre-sales for this movie should be very indicative of what's going to happen, very similar to a Marvel film, for example. But in that case, if we get $75 million on a domestic opening weekend, and let's say double that in terms of the global scale, another $75 million from the international box, that's a $150 million opening weekend for a Star Wars film around the entire planet of Earth. If we then generously afford it a 3x leg out, and again, this is an IP that is well known, something that people who want to see it don't have to think about reflexively. They're just going to go if they want to go, unlike a Project Hail Mary. That's $450 million at a 3x leg out. $450 million.
Here's some money. Go see a Star Wars.
Even if it goes to 4x based on Box Office Theory's number, that still gets it to $600 million, which is still probably going to be less than what Super Mario Bros. Has turned in its first 12 days, and is probably still going to come behind, almost undoubtedly, Project Hail Mary. And a 4x set of legs for a Star Wars film in this day and age would be extremely generous in terms of projection. Just looking at some domestic titles from 2025, again, assuming a $75 million opening, assuming that goes 3x or even 4x, that's $225 to $300 million generously if these predictions are correct for its opening weekend for Star Wars The Mandalorian Grogu. That means that more than likely it's going to get beat by possibly Avatar Fire and Ash, which only had about 11 days in 2025. It's going to get beat by How to Train Your Dragon. It's going to get beat by Fantastic Four. It's going to get beat by Sinners, for Pete's sake. It's going to get beat by Wicked, by Zootopia, by Jurassic World 15, by Superman that so many people criticized, by Lilo and Stitch, and going to get absolutely hammered, well, by Lilo and Stitch and a Minecraft movie.
Chicken jockey.
And if we look at the 2026 slate, obviously not only what has already come out, but what is fixing to come out later this year that's promising to do some serious numbers here. A Star Wars movie might not even wind up in the top 5. A Star Wars movie domestically, it's possible it might barely eke into the top 10. Stop and think about this. Sean Robbins is looking at possibly a $70 million opening weekend for The Devil Wears Prada 2. That is a very, very popular movie. The first one was with female audiences. And honestly, I can totally believe that number. Or how about Michael, the biopic on Michael Jackson that's coming out in the next couple of weeks? $75 to $90 million in that range. Again, possibly cleanly above The Mandalorian and Grogu. And even Mortal Kombat 2 right there on the 8th of May, coming in at $40 million plus. I mean, if Mortal Kombat 2 pulls $40 million and Star Wars only pulls $70, that says a lot. And then finally, of course, there's the question of what the hell did Disney Lucasfilm ultimately spend on making The Mandalorian and Grogu? That much we don't know. Now, if it looks like the first 2 or 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, and they were able to keep that budget in check of maybe between $100 to $150 million, maybe another $100 million in marketing beyond that, then maybe the movie will survive its financial break-even point, possibly being around 450, maybe 500 million on the top end, but we just don't know yet. And the movie may clear that hurdle, but it's not starting out with a very good number at this point unless fan enthusiasm really starts jumping up in the next few weeks. This movie's going to be kind of cooked. And so is Star Wars. Thanks, Disney. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.